Tinctures, potions, herbal extracts. You've heard of at least one of these terms, but what exactly are they and how do you use them? I'm Ogunslaw Firewind, and today we're looking at herbal tinctures, a powerful way to harness the health benefits and healing properties of herbs. But instead of using alcohol, we'll be making our tinctures with alcohol-free vegetable glycerin. Now, before we get started, because I've been told by several people that I need to do this now with my videos, if you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Alright, now let's get started for real. Herbal tinctures have a rich history that dates back thousands of years. In ancient Egypt, China, and Greece, herbal extracts were used to cure all sorts of ailments. Specifically, tinctures were often used by alchemists during the Middle Ages. They sought to extract what they call the essence of the herbs into a liquid form that could then be taken orally. And by the 16th century, European apothecaries mastered the art of making tinctures by soaking herbs in ethanol, a type of alcohol found in alcoholic beverages. This allowed them to extract and preserve the active compounds from plants. Alcohol was the preferred medium for its ability to pull out a wide range of beneficial phytochemicals and preserve the tincture for years. Now, fast forward to today, and herbal tinctures are still widely used in holistic and naturopathic medicine. However, with growing concerns about alcohol sensitivity and the preferences for most natural alternatives, alcohol-free tinctures made with vegetable glycerin are becoming increasingly popular. And we are going to show you how to do that today. So let's just talk about the difference between alcohol-based and glycerin-based tinctures first. Traditionally, alcohol has been the go-to solvent because it's highly effective in extracting and preserving a wide range of plant compounds, especially alkaloids and resins. Alcohol tinctures also have a longer shelf life, usually lasting several years if stored properly. And historically, alcohol has just been more easily accessible by the general population than vegetable glycerin. However, alcohol-based tinctures are not suitable for everyone. People with alcohol sensitivities, children, pregnant women, or those recovering from alcoholic addictions might want to avoid alcoholic tinctures. This is where vegetable glycerin comes in place. Vegetable glycerin is a sweet, syrupy liquid derived from plant oils. This vegetable glycerin I'm using is derived specifically from palm oil. Glycerin is highly effective at extracting many of the water-soluble and heat-sensitive constituents in herbs. Although glycerin is not as strong as alcohol in extracting certain compounds, it's still much gentler on the stomach and liver and has a naturally sweet taste, making it actually ideal for kids and anyone who's just sensitive to the bitterness of alcohol or bitterness in general. The shelf life of glycerin tincture is around 2 to 3 years, which is shorter to the alcohol-based tinctures, which is 3 to 5 years when stored correctly. But if you're looking for a gentle, alcohol-free option, glycerin is actually the perfect alternative. Now, let's get hands-on and make our own herbal tincture. You're only going to need a few ingredients and mostly patience. It takes quite a long time and a lot of waiting to make tincture properly. So you only really need a few ingredients to make tincture. You're going to need, of course, your herb that you want to use. Today we're going to be using chicory root. It's really good for aiding in digestion, and it's an antioxidant and antibacterial. I was going to pair this with dandelion root, but it's too late in the season. There's no more dandelion root to harvest, so we're just doing chicory. Couldn't think of the name. Got your herb. You're also going to need a knife or something to cut it into small pieces. You can't just soak this you could soak the entire thing in glycerin, but you're going to want to maximize the surface area, so you're going to want to cut it into small, fine pieces when you're soaking it in the glycerin. You're going to need some airtight mason jars to use, and of course your glycerin. Now, if you are using fresh herbs like this, I just harvested this less than an hour ago before recording this video. If you're using fresh herbs, then when you soak them in the jars, you could just use glycerin. You don't need to water it down with water because the water that's still inside the live plants will be enough to dilute the glycerin properly. But if you're using dried herbs, then you're going to want to use a ratio of 3 parts glycerin to 1 part water when soaking it in the jars. So let's get this cut up and move on from there. Now, in case you didn't know, chicory root and all tap roots for that matter, like dandelion, is extremely fibrous. And when you get to the thicker portions down here, it can be extremely difficult to cut. So what I like to do is kind of just try to tear off in smaller pieces and just strip them off into thinner layers and then cut that. And that always seems to work better for me. See, look how fibrous that is. It's like wood. Okay, I got my chicory into smaller pieces and into the jars. When putting them in jars, you don't really want to pack them in as tight as you can and squish them down. If you're squishing them down to fit them in there, you're putting them in too tightly. You just want to put them in gently and just let them fall in, and then once the jar is full without any pressure applied to it, move on to another jar. Next step is pouring glycerin. It's important to make sure that the glycerin you're using is food grade. Eventually you're going to be ingesting it into your body. You want to make sure that the glycerin you're using is for the intended purpose of being ingested into the human body. I bought this last year and it's still just as potent and fine. Pure glycerin like this, when stored in a room temperature cool area, is going to have a shelf life of around 5 years. Pour it in here until it is covering the herbs completely. Give it a minute. I don't know if you can see on camera, but there's some air bubbles coming out of it. Let it settle. Once all the air bubbles come out, see if it needs to be topped off anymore. Okay. Filled up. There's one. Here goes number 2. Let me put it up close to the camera for this one. I kind of just like to tap it a few times to make sure any air bubbles that are trapped in the bottom come up. I just put a little bit more in. And okay. And now you have herbs soaking in glycerin. What do you do next? These are going to need to soak for about 4 to 6 weeks, and it's important that you store them in a cool area, not like refrigerator cool, just somewhere dark, like in the back of a food pantry or something. If you get too much direct sunlight onto it, it can actually mess with the composition of the glycerin. This goes with the alcohol-based tinctures too. Any tinctures that you're soaking, you should be storing in a dark area. And you're going to be storing these for 4 to 6 weeks. So about a month and a half. And you're going to want to shake them daily. So once a day, just grab them out from their nest and just give them a good shake. Okay? Like you're playing maracas or something. I don't know. Give them a good shake. Put them back in wherever you're storing them. 4 to 6 weeks. After the 4 to 6 weeks are up, you're going to unscrew them and you're going to strain the liquid with a cheesecloth, or if you don't have that, a paper towel would work, but it's kind of thick and viscous. So if you really have some sort of strainer, that would be ideal. Even coffee filters would work also. So after 4 to 6 weeks, you're just going to take them, strain them out into a different container so that all you're left is with the liquid, and there you go. You have alcohol-free based tinctures. Make sure you store it in a cool, dark place and store it properly. Like I said, these tinctures will have a shelf life of 1 to 3 years. So now that you know the basics of how to make tincture, I just want to share a few really simple recipes that you could use to help you get started. First one is a sleep aid, and it has chamomile, lemon balm, and valerian root. This blend is going to help you relax, reduce anxiety, and just going to promote a general healthier sleep. Next one is going to be for your immune system, and that's going to be elderberries, rose hips, and echinacea. The third and final recipe is for digestion, and that's going to be ginger, fennel, and peppermint. It's great for soothing the stomach and relieving bloating and easing indigestion. You might be asking yourself, how much is a dose of tincture? Is it an entire vial? Is it one of these entire things? Do I have to make a giant drink out of it? Oops. A dose of tincture is going to vary depending on what herbs that you're using, and it's always best to do some research before you ingest a new herb, or if you buy tinctures from an herbalist, just talk to them about it. But typically your general dose is going to be anywhere between 30 milliliters and 60 milliliters. If you have one of those droppers that you see in the glass bottles, usually 1 to 2 of those droppers is 1 dose. For kids, the general rule of thumb is to half a dose for the adults from an adult dose, but I'm not a trained medical professional, and so you should always consult your physician first before giving herbs and extracts and tinctures to children. And there you have it, your own homemade alcohol-free tinctures. And remember, quality of herbs and glycerin matters, so always choose organic and food-grade ingredients. Making your own tinctures is an extremely rewarding process and allows you to take charge of your wellness in a natural, sustainable way. I hope you guys found this video useful. If you have your own tincture recipes that you want to share, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'd love to read them. But anyway, I gotta get going and getting these in a dark area. I'm Ogunslaw Firewind from Firewind Refuge. Go hug a tree. I'll see you next time.